Hey, so I'd talk to you guys about the incredible feeling of having your own body try to kill you. It is highly overrated, 10 out of 10, not recommended. If you can at all avoid that, I would highly encourage you to avoid it. Now, what am I talking about? November 9th, 2014, I had a brain aneurysm. It almost killed me. It occurred on the left side of my head, so right at the base of my skull. I believe in the occipital area, but it was on the nerve, the optical nerve. So somewhere in there. I might have some of the medical terminology off, not a doctor, don't play one on TV, but it shut off my left eye, so I could only see about that far. What felt like that far? It felt like I had a fog in front of my left eye of gray, just this heavy gray haze. And it shut off the right side of my body. My right arm wasn't working, my right leg was not working, which resulted in multiple falls. I'll get into that in a little bit. And I'm told by a number of people who are experts in this area that the majority of the folks who experience an aneurysm of this type, they don't survive. It's like 90% or more die. And so I'm very grateful that I made it through. On that note, every single doctor, from the ER doctor to the neurologists and neurosurgeons who worked on me, took care of me afterwards, every single one of those guys said the same thing. I survived this because I came into it really fit and really strong. To use the words of my neurologist, incredibly fit. So coming into this situation with this reservoir of strength and conditioning, mentally and physically, carried me through this and most likely saved my life. It definitely gave me an edge when it came time to rehab and tried to get back to normal. Here's how it went down. I was smelling odd smells. I thought for sure somebody had pranked me. I thought somebody had put cheese or something nasty in the engine block of my car or somewhere in my car where it just was pervasive. I was constantly smelling this smell, man, and it was driving me crazy. I was lifting the hood, I was searching under the seats, everything, glove box, everywhere. I'm looking for whatever this is, to the point that I actually confronted a few people because I was getting so irritated, and I said, hey man, whatever you put in my car, no hard feelings, just tell me where it is so I can get it out of there. It's driving me crazy, it smells so bad. And to the point that, I'm telling people, like, look, I can't go anywhere without smelling it. I'm smelling it all the time. I'm smelling it out of the car, I'm smelling it in the car. Well, now I know that that's a sign. So this started for about 2 weeks, and I started to have a really bad headache, like a splitting headache, something that I've never had. In my life, I've had one really bad headache that was a result of a reaction to an antibiotic I took when I lived in South Florida. So I had a reaction to this antibiotic, a combination of being dehydrated and antibiotics, and it caused a severe headache. That's it. I mean, nothing. No history of aneurysms in my family, no history of strokes, nothing. There is zilch. So I had no reason to think anything. I'm having this bad headache, but at the time I was working full-time as a police officer. I was working full-time coaching. So I'm coaching 30 to 40 hours a week in addition to working as a firearms instructor and self-defense instructor and all these other things, and I'm doing all this stuff. So I'm sleeping anywhere from 3 to 4 hours a day on average, and I've been doing this for a long time, very long time. I've been working this way. So I'm basically working 2 or 3 full-time jobs, and so to feel fatigued, to feel on edge, all those things, that's like nothing out of the ordinary. So when the headaches set in, I just attributed it to that. I just thought, man, it's been a long time of hustling like this since the 90s. And this is 2014, so you figure that's, I'm getting into the second or third decade of working like this. So it's starting to catch up. Maybe that's all it is. I just need a break. And mind you, every day off, every vacation day I had, every paid time off that I had, and anytime that I was away from one job, I was working at the other job. So I never had technically a day off. All of my trips, everything was work. If I traveled somewhere, it was to teach. If I traveled somewhere, it was to take a class. I was constantly working and trying to improve myself and improve others. Here we go. Headache, first sign. Then the smell starts, second sign, right? There's all these clues, man, and I'm missing them like crazy. So I had a hard weekend. So I had worked Friday night. I worked all day Friday, worked Friday night, went to a seminar Saturday for jiu-jitsu, ended up training and feeling like crap. Like I'm rolling with people that know me and they're like, dude, what's going on with you? I can feel your heart beating through your gi. Like you don't feel like yourself. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I just got this bad headache. I probably just need to sleep. And they're like, oh man, take it easy. You know, pushing yourself a little too hard here. So come home from the seminar and I'm wired because of this headache. I can't sleep. And I need to sleep before going to work, but I can't. And so I end up staying up, working on some stuff, writing and doing different things, reading. And then I went to work and I worked my shift and I get out of there at 7:30, 8 in the morning, Sunday morning, and I go right to a wrestling practice. So I go to wrestling practice and it's bad. I mean, really bad. Like I can't keep my head up. I'm having a hard time. My body's wanting to do this, and I'm cramping all over the place, and I'm just attributing all this to dehydration and lack of sleep. I'm just not drinking enough water, and I'm not getting enough rest. And today, though, I'm off from work. I'm going to go home after this wrestling practice. I'm gonna lock up the gym, go home, pass out. Well, going through the practice and it's getting worse now, like at an accelerated pace. Like it's starting to pick up now. Like if I stand up, the pressure in my head just becomes like excruciating. And the only way I can make it stop is to lay down. And I'm laying down flat, but when I lay down, the room's spinning and I'm getting nauseous. And one of my training partners at the time goes, hey dude, are you okay? And I said, I just need to sleep, man. I haven't slept in 2 days. And I need some rest and some water. I just need to hydrate. You know, I'm drinking as much water as I can, but it's just not enough without the sleep. And he says, funny enough, right? He says, dude, you look like you're dying. And I go, I'm good, man. So everybody leaves, get stuff cleaned up, and I go to lock up. So I shut the doors. I go to put my key in the door in the lock, and I drop the keys. Didn't mean to. They fell out of my hand. My right hand stopped working. I go to bend down to pick them up and I take a spill. I fall. I'm like, whoa, that's weird. So I get the keys and I get myself back up and I can't get my right hand to turn the key in the lock. So I use my left hand and I lock it and I go, man, that's really weird. And I start walking to my car and I fall. And I realize that as I try to catch myself, my right hand's not working. And I landed on kind of the side of my head here and on my left hand. And I didn't know what to think. I'm first time going through this, right? And I go, man, that's kind of weird. Like, what is happening right now? And so I go to get in the car and I can't get the key. Like, have to use the key with my left hand. And it was a Mercedes, so if you know Mercedes, they have that weird, the older models, before the fob, they had like this little square thing that you just insert the key in. It's not like a regular key, it's like a fob, but with a plug. So you put it in there and you turn it, and so I'm struggling to do that with my right hand, and I'm doing it. So I get it done with my left hand, and I'm like, man, this is so weird. So I start driving, and I'm having a hard time. The light, it's probably noonish, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The light is just wiping me out. It's blinding me. The noise from the cars, everything is just sensory overload. It is really making life difficult for me. And I thought, man, what is going on? What is happening? I start to drive, and I realize pretty quickly I'm in trouble. I'm having a hard time seeing. It seems like there's a fog now, and the fog is getting closer and closer. You know, the little Mercedes emblem on the front of the Mercedes, the hood, it's kind of inside the fog. So I'm having a hard time seeing. I'm trying to like see under where'd this fog come from? And all these weird emotions are going through my head of what is going on. I'm in so much pain. And then the nausea hits and I start to vomit. So I'm having to pull the car over, and I'm opening the door and I'm vomiting out the door. And I realize in hindsight, I was down to about maybe 15, 20 miles per hour, if that, because I'm having a hard time seeing. And I can't figure out where this fog came from and why everybody else is just blowing through it like it's not there. And I'm struggling. I'm hitting curbs. I'm having a hard time stopping and starting and steering. And then I'm starting to really have a hard time holding myself upright. So I'm doing like this weird thing where I keep like bending forward. My head's like down on the steering wheel. So I put my arm in the window, and I'm holding my head up like this so I can see, because my body wants to keep curling forward. And it's so I get to about the halfway point and I realize I'm in trouble. Something is really bad wrong with me, and this is not lack of sleep or not enough water or whatever. I'm in trouble. I don't know what's going on, but the pain in my head is incredible. The pressure it's making me want to just go off. I want to scream. And my whole body is starting to feel like, you know how when you hit your funny bone? My whole body is starting to feel that way. My whole body is starting to just be on fire, that nerve pain, but it's everywhere. It's the whole head to toe. And I can't figure it out. I don't know what's going on, and I'm starting to wig out a little bit. And I get to an intersection, and I made the decision to get to the hospital. And you know how it is in most major cities. There's the hospital you want to go to, and then there's a couple hospitals that are if you have to, but then there's the one hospital you just don't want to go to if you can help it. Well, that was the closest one. And I was like, man, I'm gonna have to do it. I gotta go to that hospital. So I make the turn, because I realized at some level I wasn't gonna make it to the other ones. So I drive to this other hospital, and for whatever reason, I'll never know, I parked my car across the street behind a elementary school. I don't know why I didn't park in a parking lot, but my brain was doing some weird stuff, man. And I did have a pistol on me at the time, an off-duty carry gun, which I fully disassembled and scattered the parts throughout the car. That doesn't make any sense either. And I took my phone at the time, that I had at the time. Remember, it still had a SIM card, which I don't know where that SIM card went. I took the SIM card out, I took the phone apart, the battery, all that stuff, and scattered that throughout the car, like the pieces. I hid it all throughout the car. I don't know why. Like, what in the world was going through my brain? I guess blood, right? So and then I start to cross the street to walk to the hospital, which somewhere in there I fell multiple times. And I get to where the ambulances go in and out of the hospital. I don't know how I got there. I don't know at what point I got there. I just know I got there. And I'm laying on the ground, and I remember I'm laying near a drain, like a grate in the parking lot. And a nurse, which to this day I don't know who it was. I really don't. I wish I did, because she saved my life. This nurse comes over there and she goes, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just resting." She goes, "Stay right here. I'm going to go get help. I'll be right back." And I remember looking at her and going, okay. And then saying to myself, I'm just going to go back to sleep. I'm just going to lay here and go back to sleep. And that's that. And I don't know how long, a couple seconds went by. And then I decided, I'm this close. I'm walking my happy ass into that ER. I got up and walked to the ER. By the time I got to the doors, people were coming out to get me, and they walked me into the ER. And I had busted my wrist. So my left wrist was busted from falling and catching my weight. And my face was just a mess from landing on my face because my right hand wasn't working. And I was tripping and falling multiple times. My shoulder was all busted up. And I get in there and they start running tests and they start trying to figure out what's going on. And they're doing like a spinal tap. And when they do the spinal tap, there's a couple vials. I don't remember how many vials. I think 4 of fluid that they take from your back. All the vials are full of blood, which was good because the reason my body was on fire with nerve pain was the blood was going down my spinal column somehow or another. I'm not 100% sure how that works or how that happened, but I do know that when they did the spinal tap, I felt immense release and relief. And they went through the process of doing all that. They put me in an MRI. They had all the equipment there to do surgery. And then they decided to use the medicine. So they used some medical stuff like a clot buster, some other things. I don't remember all the details on that. And they were able to use medicine to intervene. So they didn't have to cut my head open. They didn't have to do a coil or any of those things. I was very fortunate. One of the things that occurred during that time was they were going to send me home because I started to rally. I felt better. The Dilaudid kicked in. I felt so much better. The spinal tap had helped so much relieve pressure. I was good, man. I'm ready to go. And the doctor was going to send me home. And fortunately, and this I heard later from my neurologist was there because there had been another person with a brain issue that had been brought in that they had performed surgery on. And they said they were standing there just kind of talking a little bit, and they heard the nurses say, I can't believe they're going to send this guy home. He has a D-dimer in his blood work. Like something's going on. And the neurosurgeons said, hey, what are you talking about? And so the nurses told them, and they said, we'll take it from here. And so the next thing I know, I'm in a wheelchair. I'm being taken from the MRI room where they were doing all the dye and imaging and all that stuff to see what was going on with the bleed. And they took me up to critical care, and that's where I spent the rest of my time there for about 2.5 weeks. I was in critical care being cared for. Now, I will say this, if you're going to be in the hospital, that's the place to be because you have your own nurse. So there is a nurse assigned to your room, and she just watches you and takes care of you. Make sure you have everything you need. It's as close as you're going to get to an ideal hospital stay. While I was in there, they came in and they talked to me about what had happened. They explained to me everything that had gone down. That probably the only reason I survived was my fitness. So I guess there is something to that whole jiu-jitsu, fight sports, saved my life thing that people like to say, because the mindset that I had developed through years of grappling and training and fight sports, the fitness levels that I had maintained from years of doing that stuff was to my benefit. It helped me in that moment to suck it up, drive on, and also have that reserve, that reservoir of physical and mental attributes to do what I needed to do to get through this. This led to a opiate addiction. This led to months of physical therapy, months of pain. My jaw was broken on this side. My teeth were broken on this side of my face, the right side. My lower teeth were pushed over because they were almost knocked out, and the gums were just a mess from all of the damage I had taken. I remember him asking me if I wanted to get braces to fix everything, and I said no, because I wanted to remember what this was all about. I wanted to never forget what had happened and what I had gone through. And there was so much, but I wanted to just share this with you guys of what it felt like to go through that, to have your body, where you're posturing, where you're like curling inward. My hands were curling and my body was curling. And just to feel that helplessness, but also determination to not surrender, to not give in, to not give up, to fight through this, and to be determined that this isn't taking me out. This isn't gonna, I don't know what's happening right now. I don't know what's going on. I know I'm in a bad way. I can feel it. And I can tell by the looks on the faces of my family and the doctors and nurses coming in here checking on me, as well as when I got up to critical care, the nurses taking care of me, and the doctors and neurologists and neurosurgeons and the family members that would come in and talk to them in like these hushed tones over to the side. I knew something bad had happened, and I still was not out of the weeds yet, but I knew I was gonna make it. Like, I knew I'm gonna be all right. I don't know what they're saying out there. I heard them say things like, he will never work as a police officer again. He will never train jiu-jitsu again. It's gonna take him years maybe to relearn how to walk and use his hands. He might never get the vision back in his left eye. I heard them saying all these things, but a louder voice in my head was telling me, don't listen. They're saying what they can see based on their expert opinions, and they're professionals and they know what they're talking about, but they don't know me, and I'm not giving up. This is not how this ends. I'm gonna leave you guys with that. And the next one, I'm gonna talk about my recovery, opiate addiction, pain, daily pain, incredible. We'll talk. You guys are gonna love it. It's a good one. It also helped me to be a better human in the long run, because I now I had a better understanding of what people go through when their body decides to check out and leave them hanging. All right, guys, have a good one.